Hello and welcome to day 43 of Dungeon 23. Today we'll be making an addition onto the secret canvas room, same one that we did the bush goblin room with. And for today, it should be a pretty simple episode. It's going to be pretty short because my idea is it's just a very simple trap room, or a room that has a trap in it. And also I might want to put a secret door there. So let me just sketch out the room and I'll go into more detail once we finish that. So yeah, very basic layout, just a straight corridor. And there's going to be a secret room here. So it's going to mark down what the DC for that is going to be right now. So let's go over to our little guy here. Always put it to bright green. Make sure it's on the right layer. Let's increase the opacity here. So the DC to find out that these two are secret rooms here, well rather, there's a secret passageway, is just gonna be, how about DC 13? Let's see here. Just gonna put a simple thing here. So we know what the DC is. Just DC 13 to realize that this is a fake door, you can go through it. Now, for this guy, what I want to do is have this guy be a trap door. So let's go ahead and put our layer to the map layer. Let's get our shape out. Put it to the right color for a door. Get a bit darker actually. There we are. Make this extra large. So what's the trap going to be? The trap is going to be that the door is electrified. Like the door handle has like a wire running to it, like some kind of like magical battery pack, essentially. So let's mark down what this guy is. Go back to our text. So the first thing is going to be is DC. It's going to be a deck save because it's going to be basically you pulling your hand away from the door handle before it gets a chance to shock you for real. And that's probably going to be pretty low, just a DC 12. And the damage is going to be pretty simple, just 1d6 lightning. Oh. Damage. And to basically disarm it, you just have to like open the door without touching the handle, which is basically pretty easy to do because you use like a pole to do it. You could use a cloth, you could put your hand over a cloth. There's anything that, basically any method that involves you opening the door without directly touching the door handle will allow it to be opened. So let's mark that down. Any unless the door is opened without touching it. And it's going to be a DC, let's see here, let's do 15. Intelligence. Ooh, I spelled that really wrong. Check to safely move. Oh. Battery. Or you could just use Tinker's tools. Although not many people actually get those. Gnomes get them. Artificers might get them. I think artificers get them intrinsically, and they may be able to get some other tools later. But most classes don't get it. And basically what this will do is, it'll shock a player if they just open the door. Let's set this to the right layer. There we are. So what it does is basically a player walks in the room, sees the door, they go to touch it, and it's just, they get shocked. Now, actually, let's put a DC for noticing it. Actually, we didn't do that. Let's gym info overlay. Let's do DC. Let's do 13 to see the trap. That'll either be perception or investigation, whichever you want to do. Maybe you could hear the crackling electricity. I'm a big fan of just having a thing with like a DC, and what skills the player wants to use kind of affects the outcome. Basically like a different way of approaching. Although you get kind of the same information with like a little bit of difference. It's the difference between asking for an Arcana roll or a Religion roll, and it kind of like, you get basically the same information, although technically it's different. The context is different. And I think that's very similar with Investigation and Perception. But yeah, so those are our traps set out. Very simple. And of course, if the players disarm it, they have a little battery pack. So maybe somewhere deeper in the dungeon, there's like a Modron that you could power up, or there's like some kind of power system where like you turn the lights on. Now, is it a bit anachronistic? Yeah, I guess, but I really like anachronisms in my games because, I mean, you have old school D&D modules where you're like going into crashed alien ships and recovering laser guns. I think if you just kind of get married to a specific perception of what D&D is, it kind of subtracts from the whole experience. And yeah, there are some settings where you want to have, okay, well, this is a medieval setting. We're not going to have all the high fantasy stuff. And that's fine. But just generic D&D, like the Forgotten Realms are like super high fantasy, science fantasy. Like Tales of the Dying Earth kind of situation where, yeah, there's magic, there's also technology, and there's artificers and wizards all doing the same things but in different ways. You go into that secret tunnel that leads to the old wizard in the cave who's going to give you advice on magic stuff, and you find out it's actually a computer that's giving you all the information. It's not really a wizard. Or you think you have a computer, but really it's just a bunch of demons trapped in a magical prison that are doing your calculations for you. When you have like that marriage between science and fantasy, or science fiction and fantasy, it really adds to the whole feel of it. And I just really like the aesthetic. Like, I occasionally run a game for some people I know, and the setup is that they're just regular adventurers who got abducted by a giant, like a massive cloud giant. And he just swoops down in like a minivan and grabs him up, and he take him to his house, and he has like a TV and all this crazy, just mundane technology. And the humor comes from the absurdity of it. Like there's an absurd humor to there just being like a battery pack. There's an absurd humor to the big bad evil guy, the necromancer, just pulls out a phone and dials for backup. That's hilarious. And I think that aesthetic is part of the reason why like Adventure Time is so popular. Although I really do not like how it's so explicit with the post-apocalypse stuff. I think they kind of ruined it by making it all about that. Anyway, that's a whole tangent. So yeah, don't be afraid of anachronisms, because D&D is a game that has Shaolin Kung Fu monks fighting 1920s Cthulhu worshipping warlocks. There's no reason you shouldn't be super upset about anachronisms. That being said, like I said, you don't have to worry about going out of your way to add them if you don't want to have them there. It's just be fun, let wacky things happen. It doesn't have to not make sense, but it doesn't have to make sense in an artificial way. It goes back to that joke about, I forget the context, but the joke was, it was like in relation to Lord of the Rings, and it was like, you could believe in elves, and you could believe in dragons, you could believe in dwarves and hobbits and wizards. Why can't you believe in a 2001 Honda Civic driving down the road? And like, the joke of like, well, all this other absurd stuff happens, why not believe this weird mundane thing? And like, yeah, I guess this would be a joke about how, I don't know, plot relevance or whatever, but it's funny. Like, that's an unmistakably funny idea, and I want to have that. As a matter of fact, somewhere in this dungeon I'm going to put a 2001 Honda Civic, just because it's funny. So hopefully I remember by the time we get to it. Anyway, with that tangent done, thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, all that crap. And I apologize for the poor quality. It's not going to get any better.